Hello, everybody, and welcome to another rainy Monday morning. Lots and lots of rain, it appears, this year in Southern California, and winter has just started. Well, hope your day is off to a start. The week's off to a good start. Christmas is just a couple of days away. Hope you're all prepared for that. My wife has been supporting Amazon with all of her Christmas shopping, so it makes it kind of easy. You don't have to fight all the crowds. Anyways, we're going to end chapter 7 today. My book continuing, Healing the Wounded Child Within. So chapter 7 is hitting bottom, and this is part 4, white knuckling, which a lot of people do. They quit drinking, but they don't do anything else, and their life remains the same as it was before. The only difference is they're not drinking. So they call that dry drunk or white knuckling. Like I always talk about, being clean and sober is one thing, but being in recovery is a completely another thing. And being in recovery is where the work begins, where the hard work begins. A lot of people can quit drinking or using. And even in the big book, they say on the top of page 64 that we must get to the underlying causes and conditions that our liquor is but a symptom. So we can stop using the drug, the alcohol, the overeating, the pornography, whatever it might be that we're addicted to. But until we address the underlying issues, our life, for the most part, will stay the same. It might change for a period of time. But what happens is, more often than not, a person's life, and I've seen it over and over again, just their lives remain in shambles. They still find themselves with a lot of legal problems, insurmountable financial ruin, and their families are alienated from them. You know, and I can talk on this point mainly because I was there once, back in 1990, somewhere here. I'll get to it, but I didn't drink for 2 years, and essentially nothing in my life changed. My marriage ended up being in a big state of disarray, actually, after I started drinking again. But I was miserable to be around. And actually, so what happens is, when we quit drinking and using, but we don't address the underlying issues, we have these issues still. And it's like, well, I quit drinking, so nothing's changed, so I might as well just drink again. So relapse is a common thing among these individuals because their lives are still unmanageable. So they think it must not have been the alcohol or the drugs that was causing their unmanageability at their time. It must not have been the drugs and the alcohol that was causing, or the overeating, or the pornography, or the sex addictions that was causing all their problems and all their life to be unmanageable, because it still is unmanageable because they haven't addressed any of these underlying issues that remain in their lives. Again, it's only because all they've done is they've taken the symptom, the alcohol and the drugs. All they've done is taken the drugs and the alcohol away from them, but they haven't done anything to resolve their underlying issues. They haven't addressed why they're so angry. They haven't addressed why they're so insecure. They haven't addressed why they always got to be right, or why they're always looking down on themselves. They don't see it. They think, well, it's just the way I am. So as long as you cannot drink, like I say, that's part of my story, and I'm going to get to it here in just a second. You can take the drink away. I'm going to keep saying it, and the alcohol away, but that's just the first step. In fact, when I ended up in treatment, the one thing they said is, before you can work on these underlying issues, you first have to get rid of the drug and the alcohol. You have to take care of the symptom. And then once the drugs and the alcohol were taken care of, then they could start working. And then they did start working on my underlying issues, because with that substance still, that mind-altering substance still being in my brain, and mind-altering substance is also pornography. I've talked to porn addicts that their feelings before and after engaging in pornography is pretty much the same as an alcoholic or an addict is. So without that mind-altering substance in there, then you can start thinking clearly and start really seeing what's going on in your life. But as long as you got that mind-altering substance in there, you're going to usually, and most likely, you're going to fall back into that victim role. So what happened with me was that when I was in Betty Ford Center, I had to create a timeline of my life from my earliest memories right up to the present time. And I did this a couple of different times. I did one in Betty Ford in treatment, and then I did one in a grief class too. The grief class was a little bit different, but basically they were the same. And as I was doing this, I recalled that there was a 2-year period between 2000 and 2002 when I decided to quit drinking just to show my wife and children that I could. I don't need to drink. I'll be fine. But for those hey, Terry, how you doing, buddy? But for those 2 years that I didn't drink, I remained abstinent or sober. How are you? Those 2 years I remained abstinent and sober, but that's not the same as being in recovery. I was what is known as a dry drunk. I was just dry. All my issues were still there. I didn't need no help. The drugs and the alcohol were gone. Therefore, my problems are gone. And the reality is the drugs and the alcohol being gone made my symptoms worse and brought them all the way to the surface because I had nothing to numb the pain anymore. So my behavior over those 2-year period of time, and I saw it was very clear in this timeline, became increasingly worse. I became angrier, more judgmental, much more arrogant, and the people around me did not like me very much at all. They tolerated me, they put up with me, but they really didn't want me around. They preferred that I wasn't in their life. I mean, my wife, my children, they loved me no matter what, but my wife was just tolerating me. And it's funny because I used to go away on hunting trips and I'd be gone for a week. And I know she never told me this before, but now she tells it to me now. She's told it to several people that when she knew I was going to go away for a week, she couldn't wait for me to leave because then she could have a week of peace. And then when I was coming home, she was pretty much dreading me being home again because of my behavior. But the reality is during this time also that I didn't like myself very much at all. And especially when I look back on it, I didn't like myself. I thought I was a egomaniac with an inferiority complex. See, the whole thing was that I quit drinking, but the underlying issues of my sexual abuse had not been dealt with. And my way of self-medicating had been taken away from me. So I was just virtually white knuckling it on a daily basis. I just got to make it through the day. Right? See, that the sexual abuse in itself was part of the problem, but the things that were attached to the sexual abuse, low self-esteem, low self-worth, anger, rage, hate, all that was being manifested in ways. And the older I got, the more I drank, the more those things were manifested. I want to stop here just for 1 second. I meant to introduce the today with this, and I said it last week, and I've thought to myself, why are people going to be listening to this, me talking about my book? And Pastor Obed said something a couple of weeks ago that was really good. And he says, if you know my story, then you're going to want to become a student of my story. If you know my story, then you're going to want to become a student of my story. And why is that? Because if you know everything about my life, a lot of people say, well, Randy, man, I gotta really want what you got. You do. If that's what you really want, then you need to hear my story because you might not want it. Because what comes with who I am today comes years of hell that I went through as a child and a teenager and as an adult. So you need to study my story, one, so you can see ways that you might relate. But more importantly, from 2006 forward is what you really need to study. You need to know before 2006 because you might be able to relate I'm not saying everything that happened to me happened to you, but there's a lot of stuff in there that I know a lot of people can relate to. So then you could go, okay, but the important part of the story is from 2006 forward. That's where the hope and the healing comes in. Okay, so I wanted to say that. I meant to say it at the beginning. So during that time of 2000 and 2002, things did change, but they changed. They only changed for the worse. My life really had been a lot easier when I could work myself into exhaustion every day and collapse into bed at night. Vacations or weekends, the weekend camping trips or fishing trips or hunting trips, they were perhaps the most difficult times to deal with, especially in the evening time. Because during the day, right, we were fishing or hiking or hunting, camping up there. We'd all be busy, doing those things. We'd be fishing all day, we'd be hiking, we'd be hunting, or just touring around town. So my mind was always occupied, and I was staying busy. But at night, while sitting around the campfire, that's when it got tough. For a while, I'd be fine, with everyone drinking, But then there'd come a time, there'd come a point at night, every evening, there'd come a point where I was immensely uncomfortable. I just couldn't be there. The drunk talk, the laughter, it just made me cringe, I love sitting around a campfire. I love the smell of the campfire. I love that part of it. I love being outdoors, but it didn't seem fair, why these people could drink and have fun and not cause problem. And here I am, like I'm white knuckling around the campfire. So what I would do is I would go into the motorhome or into my tent, wherever I was at, to just go to sleep, especially when those campfire conversations started getting intimate and personal. Then it was like, I'm out of here. I can't deal with this. The reality is that without the drugs and the alcohol, I could not handle just being Randy, because that was never good enough. Just being Randy was never good enough as I was growing up, as a child, as a teenager. No matter what I did, no matter what accomplishments I made, it was never good enough. I could have always done it better. The people that I grew up with, you should have done it this way, or it would have been better if you did this, or this, or this. Oh, that was great, but so it was never good enough just to be Randy. And I'll be honest with you, and there's days to, like this last month, be real about it, that I've been struggling with that again. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like it's good enough just to be me. And that might be a human trait that everybody deals with on a daily occasions. But what I will tell you about what I'm talking about now, this was a really deep-seated wound that I really, really couldn't deal with it. It was hard. What I would do is I just want to run away from those situations, and I would, like I say, I would run into the tent or into the motorhome or whatever I was camping in. And I would just pull the covers underneath my head and just sleep. And it's like at those moments in time, I felt like everybody could see my shame and my brokenness, because I had nothing to hide behind anymore. At nighttime, it was that rawness of the intimacy and the personalness of being around people. And I felt that's when they could really, really see the brokenness coming out of me. I can remember it was an evening we were hunting up in June Lake in 2002. I can see it in my mind right now. And all my hunting buddies, they would always drink. And I haven't drank for 2 years now. And they would always have a Jack Daniels at the end of the day, or 2 or 3 or 4. Then whatever it was. And I can remember seeing my buddy walk down and pouring a Jack Daniels and Jack and 7. And I asked him, I says, hey man, why don't you go ahead, and it was a long day deer hunting, a long day hunting. I said, do me a favor. After some rationalization in my head, Go ahead and pour me a Jack Daniels, will you? After all, I hadn't drank for nearly 2 years, so I figured, well, one drink ain't gonna hurt me, you know. Besides, I proved to everybody I didn't have to drink. I could get away without drinking. And then what would one little drink do to me anyway? I can remember when I asked him to pour a drink, he just looked at me and says, "Boyd, are you sure? You haven't drank for 2 years. You sure you want to do this?" And I insisted. He resisted for a while, but eventually he gave in to Mike, just go ahead and pour me one, or I'll pour it myself. So he went ahead and poured me one. But unfortunately, as we all know, that one drink led to two, and the two led to three, and you know the rest. Yeah, Terry, I'm in the town. I'm in town all over for the holidays, except for Christmas Day. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, as you know, it just goes 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, and a good alcoholic I am, it ain't the first drink. It ain't the fourth or fifth drink. It's the first drink that got me. So that first drink started me back on a 4-year run that nearly cost me everything. Everything. It gave me that artificial sense of confidence, which I hadn't experienced since my father died. So alcohol tends to do that to you. It makes you bold, it makes you outgoing, makes you think you can conquer the world. But that confidence is a shabby copy of the real thing. When I drank, I was able to interact with people in ways I couldn't before. When I was sober, I was really uncomfortable. When I started drinking, again, I justified by telling myself it was so I could continue to maintain the business relationships I had created. Drinking was a part of business. We get together for a business meeting, there's always cocktails there. So to not feel like I'm an outcast or like I'm more than or whatever, I would drink. And what had happened at this point in time in my life, I had reached a level of economic success that I never thought possible. I never thought that I could make the money I made. I never thought that I would be that successful in business. In a lot of ways, being successful in business was a way to compensate for feeling broken from my abuse. And I can tell you on that note that somebody asked me when I shut the business down for that next year, I really, really struggled. They asked me, "Randy, do you think you built that business to that point as a screw you to your mother and your stepfather?" Man, nobody had ever asked me that. And I really thought about that. And the reality, yeah, I did. Look at me now. Look how important I am now. Look at the money I make. Look who I am. Look at everybody who looks up to me. See, I'm not worthless. But man, was I feeling worthless? I had enough money, spending money like it was candy, candy coming out of a candy machine for free. I could buy whatever I wanted, do whatever I wanted. And doing all that made me feel really, really powerful and important, which compensated for the feelings of helplessness and inadequacy at the time. But the reality is, it really, really never filled the hole in my soul. So when I stopped drinking in 2000, my business was suffering because of my frequent withdrawals. I was starting not coming to work, or I had the business, so I would come in late is what I would do and just say, "Hey, I was taking care of stuff at home." But after the withdrawals and when I started drinking again, I transformed back into the play hard Randy. So I thought the alcohol was the thing that was making me this all important man, this play hard guy, this guy that worked hard and played hard. I thought it all had to do with the fact that I was drinking again. And king alcohol had made me that king, that powerful. But something happened again in my life that would turn me around, and This time it wasn't screaming and yelling. It wasn't people shouting and crying. It wasn't a nudge from the judge. It wasn't the wife telling me, Randy, you got to get help or I'm leaving. It was none of that. But it was the simple fact that I had a child, I had children, and I had a wife. And it was because of that wife and the children that I felt that I needed help. What got me was a soft whisper in my ear from God. It was a divine intervention on my part. It says, you need help and you need it today. At that point in time, I made a commitment then and there that I would stop drinking. Because in that, you need to stop drinking now. The whisper also said, because your get out of jail free cards are used up. And I knew exactly what he was talking about. And I believe that everybody has that voice in their ear. I believe that everybody has that chance, that one chance, one last chance. That I don't believe God gives up on us that easy. I believe He's always going to be there for us. And I can remember that day very clearly. And the key words were, your get out of jail free cards are used up. And I honestly believe that is what saved my life. Those words alone. Because there's only one person that knew how to use those words in a way that would get me to turn my life around. There's only one person that knew what those words would mean to me, and that was God. Because there was countless times that I should have been dead or I should have gone to jail, that none of that ever happened to me. And it was because I reached out to God every time. And I knew that if I didn't listen this time, exactly what he was saying was, the next time an issue comes up, you're going to go to jail. The next time, you might kill somebody. Your get out of jail free cards are used up, Randy. You need help today. So I listened. I'd quit several times before, as I mentioned, but each time I returned to the bottle. So it was February 5th, 2006. Something was different this time. I hit bottom and I was sick and tired of it. And when I heard those words from God, I said, I'm done. Now, my bottom was an emotional bottom. It was a result also of the affair that I had in 2004. So there was that going on. I knew that if I didn't quit drinking and take care of the underlying conditions that were a direct result of my sexual abuse, I would probably lose my wife and children. And I didn't want to do that. It wasn't like the previous times when I'd hurt Kathy, but she had forgiven me. On February 5th, I'd been back in the house for a little over a year after the affair. And for that whole year, I was working towards building Kathy's trust again. But yet I was still verbally abusive with her. And I know that, like I say, Kathy didn't threaten me. The family didn't threaten me. I just knew I had to change. And I had to change quickly. So I don't know what a person's bottom is. I can't tell you that. Everybody's is different. Some are high, some are low, and some are in between. Some are emotional. Some get in a bad car accident. It might hurt somebody. Some might just have one too many DUIs. Some might lose their family. There's a lot of different lows that we have to hit, but I just would pray to God that you would hit that low and come to the point of surrender and a point of desperation where he says, I'm done. I've hit bottom. I've got to change something. What I've been doing doesn't work. And not just drinking and using or watching pornography or overeating. Not just that is working either, because I still feel like a piece of garbage. I still act inappropriately. My life is still in shambles. What's going on? So my prayer is that you would get not only quit, continue the use of whatever substance you're abusing. And again, substance, alcohol, drugs, food, pornography, gambling, overeating, you name it, overworking. But you would also seek the recovery that you need to change who you are as a person, to fill the hole in your soul that is burning, that's keeping you from moving forward and having a better life. I never thought it possible. I mean, I quit drinking for 2 years and I was still miserable. And my good friend Duke told me, or actually his wife told my wife, Roxy told Kathy, this is going to be the hardest thing Randy's ever done in his life. And she was right. It's really hard. It's not easy. But God gave me a chance when I hit bottom with a verbal warning, and I heeded to it. And I know I've talked to other people about the situation that haven't heeded to it. And when they've been given that warning, that one warning where God says, this is it. Don't do this or you're going to end up in trouble. They didn't listen and they got in trouble and their life got far, far worse. So whatever it is in your life that you're holding on to, that you're afraid to let go of, it's time. You don't have to go down the path of destruction. It doesn't have to be. Okay? So this was the 4th week of the month. Actually, I'm sorry. This December has 5 weeks in it. So this was the end of chapter 7 today. So I think next week I'm going to be talking about something that's really important. I've been doing some research on it. It has to do with AA. You've got to be understanding. And how that God of your understanding was truly intended by the founders of AA. It's very interesting. And I think those of you that know me know how passionate I am about this part of it because it's bad. Okay, so I'm not sure that I'll be doing Monday. Kathy has to have some surgery done on her hand. I'm not sure what time that's going to be. So I'll either do it Monday sometime or Tuesday at 11 o'clock, but I'll let you know Monday morning when I'm going to do next week's live feed. I want to keep it very consistent, okay? So moving forward, then we got my life coaching. Remember, Kathy and I, we work with couples. We've probably got, I don't know, half a dozen couples that we've worked with over the last couple of years, and they're doing very well. It's a journey. Some of them it just takes a while, but we believe, and we're pro-marriage, and we believe that every marriage can be worked out no matter what they've faced in the past. It can all be worked out if both people want it to work out. I also work with addictions, abuse, inner healing, and spiritual work as well. So those that are struggling with God, I love to work with those people because I was once there myself. So that's my life coaching. You can visit my webpage at changeyourlifestorynow.com for hourly sessions or 3 months, 6 month, and 1 year packages as well. Everybody's got hurts, hangups, and habits. So don't wait. You're worth it. You're absolutely worth the time and the money and to find out who you really are. There's generally somebody inside of us that we are afraid to get to know or don't know. So check out my life coaching page at changeyourlifestorynow.com. My book is available, Healing the Wounded Child Within. It's on Amazon, a paperback, Kindle, audiobook. Be sure to visit the website, courageoushealers.org. If you'd like to make a one-time donation to be a monthly contributor, visit our website and click on the donate button. We are 501c3 nonprofit organizations. All contributions are tax deductible. You can do a one-time contribution or you can become a monthly contributor. All the money stays in the Courageous Healers Foundation. It goes towards developing workshops, developing programs to help people. It all stays in there. It goes to the mission of Courageous Healers Foundation. I do not take any of it personally whatsoever. Okay, if you donate $60 or more, I'll send you a signed copy of my book, Healing the Wounded Child Within, and a copy of my 30-day devotional to wholeness. That's a $40 value. We have our workshops coming up. I'm going to put the website on the for the workshops. You can look at all the workshops that we're doing. I'll get it here for you. I'm going to post it on here. a series of 4 workshops. The first one is March 14th, and that's going to be on personal communication. You can read about it on the page there. That's a workshop flyer. That's a communication workshop flyer. June 13th, we're going to be doing one called Journey to You. This is a pretty intensive one. We'll look back on how you became the person you are, passed down from generation to generational, some of the generational behaviors. We'll explore ways that you can recognize these patterns, and then, of course, we're going to give you a way to remove and replace those behaviors that we inherited, and replace the ones that are defective with ones. I use the word defective, but with ones that are healthy. Then September 12th, we do Secrets and Silence. And then December 5th, right before Christmas next year, we're going to do one on forgiveness. And that one will be I just did that one similar, the short talk on that Friday night, the Celebrate Recovery, and it was pretty eye-opening. So anyways, that's our workshops. You can keep on checking back for updates as I go. So everybody have a super blessed Christmas, and I want to end with this. This could be a very stressful time for family, especially with Christmas. A lot of people, families missing and whatnot. And the prayer of St. Francis is a beautiful prayer, and I just want you to go to the end of it. When we first started doing our Christmas brunches here at the house about 13 years ago, that first year of sobriety, because we stayed at home, we didn't go to family events just to help me out. I noticed Kathy was getting ready, people coming over. She's cooking dinner. She had lost her mom 4 or 5 years prior to that, I believe. She passed away, and I just noticed Kathy was getting uptight, and I could feel it, and I could hear it in her tone. So I went in my prayer room and I was praying. I was doing the 11-step prayer. And there's only there's a lot in there, but there's 2 things I want you to remember that I guarantee you, will make your holiday 100% better if you just follow them. It's this: it's better to love than to be loved. And it's better to understand than to be understood. Well, what about me, Randy? I need love, and I need to be understood. Yeah, I agree, but Kathy and I have learned to make each other number one. And that day when I loved Kathy instead of wanting to be loved and seeking her love, when I loved her, when I understood what she was going through, it made our day so beautiful. And there wasn't a hassle. I could feel her spirit rest and relax. And in the same way that I was giving these things, I was receiving them in much greater, in a much greater way. It's hard to explain. So remember that. In those times when you're struggling, find somebody that you're with. Better to love than to be loved. Better to understand than to be understood. And I promise you, if you can practice those 2 things in the St. Francis prayer, it's at the very end, your day will be much better. Remember, if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does. But more importantly, God does. And everybody have a super blessed day and have a Merry Christmas with your family. Enjoy it. See you next week.